Ancient symbols carved in stone hold the secrets of entire vanished civilizations. These lost languages are far more than forgotten words. They are the keys to unlocking vast networks of trade, culture, and knowledge that once connected continents. By the end of this journey, you will see how deciphering these ancient codes has completely reshaped our understanding of human history. We will meet the brilliant minds who solved impossible puzzles and uncover the hidden connections between societies that collapsed into dust. How did a single stone slab finally crack the code of the Egyptian pharaohs? What profound truths are still locked within the world's most mysterious manuscript? What forgotten story from the past would you most want to hear? A slab of dark stone unearthed by French soldiers in 1799 would become the single most important key to an ancient world. This was the Rosetta Stone, a decree from the reign of Pharaoh Ptolemy V, carved in 2190 BC. Its true power lay not in its message, but in its presentation of that same message in three distinct scripts: Greek, Demotic, and the beautifully enigmatic hieroglyphs. For the first time, scholars had a parallel text, a linguistic bridge. The Greek was well understood, and the Demotic, a common script of Egypt, could be painstakingly matched to it. But the hieroglyphs remained a locked door for nearly 23 more years. The brilliant French linguist Jean-François Champollion, building on the work of others like the English physicist Thomas Young, made the final, breathtaking leap. He realized that the oval loops, known as cartouches, encircled the names of rulers. By matching the cartouche for Ptolemy to its Greek equivalent, he saw that the symbols were not just pictures representing ideas. They also represented sounds. This was the revolutionary insight. Hieroglyphs were a complex mix of logographic and phonetic elements. A single symbol could be a word, a sound, or a clarifying sign. Champollion's breakthrough in 1822 did not just translate words. It flung open the doors to thousands of years of history. Suddenly, the voices of the pharaohs, the rituals of the priests, the accounts of the traders, and the poetry of the people could be heard again. This decipherment revealed the vast, intricate network that held ancient Egypt together. It showed how administrative orders traveled from the capital to distant provinces, how religious doctrines were standardized across temples, and how a shared written language created a cohesive cultural identity that lasted for millennia. The Rosetta Stone proved that a lost language was not a dead end, but a doorway. Its success sent a surge of hope and ambition through the scholarly world, igniting a fervent quest to find the next great key, to listen for the next lost voice waiting to speak across the centuries. But the Rosetta Stone was a gift of parallel text, a clear map left behind. What happens when no such map exists? For decades, clay tablets covered in sharp, angular symbols lay buried in the ruins of ancient Crete and mainland Greece. This script was known as Linear B, and it was utterly silent. Scholars believed these tablets were the written records of the magnificent and supposedly peaceful Minoan civilization, the builders of the great palace of Knossos. They were a mystery from a world of myth, a script from a people lost to time. The key to unlocking it would not come from a trilingual inscription, but from the brilliant, persistent mind of an amateur. Michael Ventris was an architect by trade, but he possessed a linguist's soul. He became obsessed with the Linear B puzzle, treating it like a complex architectural draft that needed the right blueprint to be understood. For years, he and other researchers collected every fragment, every symbol, building a statistical profile of the script's patterns. Ventris made a critical assumption. Perhaps the language was not some unknown, lost tongue, but an early, archaic form of Greek. This was a radical idea, as it challenged the long-held belief that the Mycenaeans, the people of places like Mycenae and Pylos, were illiterate barbarians who simply conquered the advanced Minoans. He began testing his theory, searching for the names of ancient places on the tablets. He found them. The symbols for ko, no, so perfectly matched the sound of nossos. The symbols for amai, nai, so matched amnisos, a known port city. It was the breakthrough. In 1952, Ventris announced his decipherment to the world. Linear B was not Minoan, it was Greek. This single revelation shattered a historical illusion. The Mycenaeans, the heroes of Homer's epics, were not just warriors. They were meticulous administrators who used this script to manage vast palace economies. These clay tablets were their filing cabinets, recording everything from chariot wheels and bronze ingots to distributions of grain and olive oil to workers. Suddenly, these inventories painted a vivid picture of a highly organized, interconnected Bronze Age world. They revealed a sophisticated network of trade and control stretching across the Aegean Sea, linking the mainland palaces with outposts on Crete and other islands. The decipherment of Linear B did more than just translate lists of goods. It transformed the Mycenaeans from shadowy figures of legend into a documented, complex society with a functioning bureaucracy. It proved that the roots of Greek civilization were far older and more intricate than anyone had dared to believe. Michael Ventris, the amateur, had achieved the impossible, demonstrating that with logic, pattern recognition, and sheer determination, even the most obscure scripts could be coaxed into speech. His success gave other scholars the courage to look at the world's remaining undeciphered scripts, including one that was even older and infinitely more mysterious. After the triumph of Linear B, the silence of the Indus Valley script feels almost deafening. This civilization, sprawling across what is now Pakistan and northwest India, was a contemporary of ancient Egypt and Mesopotamia. It boasted meticulously planned cities like Harappa and Mohenjo-Daro, with sophisticated plumbing, standardized bricks, and vast granaries. Yet for all its apparent organization, its voice is completely lost to us. We have over 4,000 inscribed objects, mostly small stone seals adorned with beautiful animal motifs like unicorns and bulls. Carved beside these images are brief sequences of elegant, often abstract symbols. These inscriptions are our only written record of a society that thrived for nearly 1,000 years, and they are frustratingly short. Most contain only 4 or 5 characters, offering no lengthy prose, no royal decrees, no epic poetry to use as a linguistic handhold. This brevity is the core of the problem. How do you crack a code when the messages are little more than ancient labels or signatures? There is no Rosetta Stone here, no bilingual inscription to act as a key. For decades, scholars have tried everything. They have used powerful computers to analyze the statistical patterns of the symbols, searching for the telltale rhythms of a spoken language. They have compared the script to every known language family in the region, with some proposing it represents an early form of a Dravidian language, still spoken in southern India today. Others argue the symbols are not words or sounds at all, but a complex system of non-linguistic signs, perhaps denoting family clans, trade goods, or religious concepts. Imagine trying to understand our entire modern world if the only surviving texts were corporate logos and hashtags. You might grasp fragments of meaning, but the full story, the culture, the conversations would remain entirely hidden. This is the scale of the challenge we face. Deciphering this script would do more than just satisfy academic curiosity. It would tear down a wall between us and a lost world. We could finally learn the names they gave to their cities and their gods. We could understand the trade agreements that connected their urban centers and see the social hierarchies that governed their daily lives. Are we looking at the records of merchants listing commodities like cotton, timber, and lapis lazuli traded across vast distances? Or are these the sacred symbols of priests invoking deities whose names have been forgotten? The silence of the Indus Valley is a humbling reminder that for all our technological advances, some ancient doors remain firmly locked. It stands as one of history's greatest unsolved puzzles, a quiet challenge passed down through the millennia, waiting for the one mind that can finally hear its whisper. While the Indus script remains stubbornly silent, another ancient American mystery was solved by challenging a fundamental assumption. For generations, the intricate glyphs carved into Mayan stelae and temple walls were seen as nothing more than a complex calendar system or sacred art. The idea that this was a true writing system recording the histories of kings and cities was dismissed. This perception began to crumble in the mid-20th century, thanks to a Soviet linguist working in isolation. Yuri Norizov, building on the idea that scripts often mix sound and meaning, proposed that Mayan glyphs were a logosyllabic system. He identified specific signs that represented syllables, using historical records of the Mayan languages to test his theory. His work proved that the script could indeed record spoken words, but it was the American researcher Tatyana Proskoryakov who delivered the final, stunning blow to the old calendar theory. A meticulous architectural artist, she noticed consistent patterns in the dates and glyphs on monuments at the site of Piedras Negras. She saw that certain sequences of events like a birth, an accession to the throne, and major military victories were tied to specific rulers. She was not just reading symbols, she was reading biographies. Proskoryakov had discovered the historical narratives of Mayan kings, pulling real people from the shadows of myth. This linguistic renaissance utterly transformed our understanding of the Maya. They were no longer a peaceful society of star-gazing priests, but a civilization of powerful city-states locked in complex networks of diplomacy, warfare, and shifting alliances. The glyphs detail the rise and fall of dynasties, recording the names of rulers like the great Kainish Janob Pakal of Palinc. They speak of battles, of captured rivals, and of political marriages that secured power across Mesoamerica. These stone pages also reveal the economic heart of their world. They document a thriving trade in precious goods, with jade traveling from the highlands, obsidian for tools and weapons from volcanic sources, and perhaps most importantly, cacao beans, which were used as currency. The glyphs show us that a merchant traveling from a coastal city to a highland capital was moving within a single, interconnected economic sphere. Decoding this script did more than fill museums with new names and dates. It opened a window into the sophisticated mind of ancient American cultures, proving they had a deep, enduring tradition of written history long before European contact. It rewrote the history of the pre-Columbian Americas, revealing a network of vanished civilizations as complex and documented as any in the Old World. The angular marks pressed into wet clay created the very first web of information. This was cuneiform, a writing system born in ancient Mesopotamia over 5,000 years ago. Its wedge-shaped symbols were not carved with a stylus but impressed, a process that generated countless tablets recording every facet of life for 3,000 years. For centuries, these clay bricks were just curious artifacts, their messages locked away. The key to their decipherment was carved on a near-inaccessible cliff face in Iran, the Behistun inscription. This monumental text, commissioned by the Persian king Darius the Great, told the same story in 3 different cuneiform scripts: Old Persian, Elamite, and Babylonian. It was a new Rosetta Stone high on a mountain. The British Army officer Henry Rawlinson risked his life repeatedly to scale the cliff and make paper casts of the inscriptions in the mid-19th century. By first deciphering the Old Persian, he and other scholars slowly unlocked the others, cracking the code of the world's oldest writing. What they found was not just one story, but the entire hum of a civilization. These tablets revealed the administrative machinery of the world's first empires, from Sumer to Akkad to Babylon. They were the spreadsheets and legal files of their day, documenting everything from the precise amount of barley paid to a worker to the complex terms of international trade agreements. A merchant in the city of did not operate in isolation. His contracts, written in standardized cuneiform, connected him to a network stretching from the Persian Gulf to Anatolia. The famous Code of Hammurabi, with its laws carved into a towering black stone, was itself a product of this system, a set of rules designed to bring order to a vast and diverse kingdom. Perhaps the most astonishing discovery came from the ancient city of Ebla in modern-day Syria. There, archaeologists uncovered a royal archive of thousands of cuneiform tablets. These records revealed a completely unknown Semitic language, Eblate, and detailed the city's extensive commercial ties with Mesopotamia. They proved that this web of writing and trade was even larger and more intricate than anyone had suspected. Cuneiform was the protocol that allowed these early empires to function, coordinating the movement of goods, the administration of laws, and the diplomacy between kings across immense distances. It was the nervous system of the ancient world, and its recovery showed us that the ambition to build interconnected societies is one of humanity's oldest stories. Yet for every language we have learned to hear again, there remains one that speaks only in riddles. The Voynich manuscript is a linguistic black hole, a book that consumes every attempt to understand it. Created in the 15th century, this illustrated codex is filled from edge to edge with a unique, flowing script that corresponds to no known alphabet. Its pages are a strange gallery of impossible botany, with plants that have no match in our world, alongside intricate astronomical charts and biological drawings of tiny, nude figures bathing in interconnected green tubes. For centuries, this book has been a siren call for the world's finest codebreakers, from top intelligence analysts during the Second World War to the most powerful artificial intelligence algorithms of our own time. All have failed. The text possesses a statistical structure that mimics a real language, with patterns of word repetition and sentence length that feel logical and ordered. Yet it defies every known method of decryption. Is it an encoded herbalist's manual, preserving a lost tradition of plant knowledge from a culture that vanished without a trace? Could it be a complex cipher designed to protect alchemical secrets or obscure religious beliefs? Or is it, as some have argued, the most elaborate and enduring hoax in history, a brilliant but meaningless construction designed to deceive a wealthy patron? The truth is, we simply do not know. Its very undecipherability is a profound reminder of the limits of our own knowledge. While the Rosetta Stone gave us a map and Linear B gave us a pattern, the Voynich manuscript offers only a reflection of our own curiosity. It stands as the ultimate challenge, a locked door for which we have not yet found and may never find the key. This single book, sitting quietly in a library vault, humbles our greatest technological and intellectual achievements, forcing us to wonder what entire networks of knowledge, what vanished ways of seeing the world, might still be waiting silently in the shadows just beyond our understanding. Far out in the vast Pacific Ocean, another silent script waits on wooden tablets. These are the Rongorongo glyphs of Easter Island, a unique and haunting script carved onto driftwood. They are one of the very few writing systems believed to have been invented in complete isolation from the rest of the world. Discovered only after European contact in the 18th century, these tablets arrived too late. The society that created them had already collapsed, devastated by introduced diseases and social upheaval. The very people who could have read them were gone, taking their meaning with them. What we are left with are just 26 known surviving objects, each covered in a beautiful, fluid script of stylized figures, from birds and fish to complex ceremonial objects. The glyphs march across the wood in a unique pattern called reverse boustrophedon, meaning the lines of text turn upside down at the end of each row, as if the writer were plowing a field back and forth. But were these symbols a true writing system, recording language as we understand it, or were they something else entirely? Many researchers now suspect Rongorongo was a form of proto-writing, a sophisticated memory aid for expert chanters and priests to recall vast genealogies, creation myths, and navigational lore. Think of it not as a book to be read silently, but as a set of notes for a grand performance, a script for the spoken word that held the entire cultural memory of the island. This idea creates a fascinating connection to the island's most famous monuments. The same society that carved the colossal Moai statues also carved these intricate tablets. It is deeply compelling to imagine that Rongorongo was the administrative and religious script that organized that immense effort. Did these glyphs record the lineages of the chiefs who commissioned the statues? Did they encode the rituals and chants necessary to tap into the spiritual power, the mana, that the islanders believed the Moai contained? Deciphering even a single tablet could reveal the social and religious networks that allowed a small population on a remote island to achieve such breathtaking feats of engineering. The challenge is immense. With so few texts and no bilingual key, linguists are trying to solve a puzzle with most of its pieces missing. Yet the potential reward is monumental. If Rongorongo can be understood, it would tell us how the Polynesian settlers of this island, the most isolated inhabited place on Earth, maintained their cultural identity against all odds. It could reveal how they remembered their ancestral voyages across thousands of miles of open ocean and what beliefs sustained them until the very end. This script is more than just a local mystery. It is the sole written voice of a people who reached the very edge of the habitable world, built a unique civilization there, and then saw it fade away. Their story is etched into wood, waiting for the day we can finally listen. The silence of the Indus Valley and the riddles of the Voynich manuscript show how stubborn a lost language can be. Yet some scripts are almost eager to speak. In the spring of 1929, a farmer's plow struck stone in northern Syria, unearthing a tomb that led to the ancient city of Ugaritic. Within a single year, the script found there was not just identified but fully understood. This was Ugaritic, and its decipherment remains one of the most stunningly swift victories in the history of linguistics. The key to this speed was its brilliant, almost modern design. Ugaritic was a cuneiform alphabet. Its writers took the wedge-shaped marks of Mesopotamian cuneiform, a system with hundreds of complex signs, and brilliantly streamlined it. They used just 30 of these wedges to represent the individual sounds of their Semitic language. It was a conceptual leap of genius, combining the familiar, widespread medium of clay tablets with the efficient simplicity of an alphabet. For codebreakers, this was the perfect storm. The script's limited number of characters made it statistically easy to test. Scholars, led by the German researcher Hans Bauer, could apply their knowledge of related Semitic languages like Hebrew and Arabic. They started by looking for the most common words like son and king, and for the names of local gods they knew from other sources. the symbols for the chief god, El, and the storm god, Baal, were identified almost immediately. The entire alphabet was cracked in a matter of months, and when the language yielded, it did not whisper, it roared. The clay tablets of Ugaritic contained breathtakingly rich literature, including the epic myth of Baal's battle with the sea god Yam. These stories echoed with a strange and powerful familiarity. They contained phrases and poetic structures that were nearly identical to passages found in the Hebrew Bible, revealing a shared cultural and literary bedrock across the entire Levant. This was not just a language, it was a conversation, but the tablets were more than myth. They were the filing cabinets of a major commercial port. Ugaritic records meticulously documented the city's thriving economy, listing imports of copper from Cyprus, ivory and gold from Egypt, and precious cedar wood from the mountains. They reveal a city acting as a critical node in a vast international network, translating goods and ideas between the great empires of Mesopotamia and the kingdoms of the Aegean and Egypt. The story of Ugaritic proves that under the right conditions, a lost language can reveal its secrets in a flash of insight. It stands as a beacon of hope, a reminder that the next great decipherment might not require a lifetime of work, but simply the right key, turning in a lock we have only just found. While the Ugaritic alphabet surrendered its secrets in a flash, other scripts have remained stubbornly mute for centuries. In the highlands of ancient Iran, a civilization known as Elam was developing its own answer to the administrative challenges of the time. Around 3100 BC, just as Cuneiform was being born in Mesopotamia, the Proto-Elamite script emerged. It stands today as one of the oldest undeciphered writing systems in the world. These clay tablets are our primary window into this enigmatic culture, a neighbor operating in the shadow of the mighty Sumerian city-states. At first glance, the script shares a family resemblance with early Mesopotamian Proto-Cuneiform. Both use similar numerical signs and a repertoire of abstract symbols, but the language it records is entirely its own, unrelated to any known tongue. The vast majority of these tablets are dry, bureaucratic records. They meticulously track quantities of grain, heads of livestock, and allocations of human labor. They are the spreadsheets of a nascent state, the raw data of an economy taking shape. This very nature is what makes them so difficult to read. How do you decipher a language when the only surviving texts are ancient inventory lists? There are no royal hymns, no love poems, no epic tales of gods and heroes to provide context. The messages are brutally short and functional, offering no lengthy passages for linguistic analysis. The script itself is a maze of abstract lines and circles, a system that seems to have evolved rapidly toward greater simplicity, perhaps for the sake of efficient record-keeping by a busy administration. Cracking this code would do more than just translate lists of barley and sheep. It would illuminate a crucial, missing link in the story of early civilization. Did writing develop in Elam completely independently, a parallel invention born from the same need to manage complex societies? Or was it a borrowed idea, adapted and transformed to suit a unique culture and language? Understanding Proto-Elamite would reveal how this civilization interacted with its Mesopotamian neighbors. Was it a relationship of trade and cultural exchange, or one of rivalry and competition for resources? The answers are locked in those silent numerical notations. They hold the blueprint of a social network, showing how a king or a temple priest organized labor, collected taxes, and distributed food to workers. They could tell us about the social hierarchy, revealing who held power and who simply obeyed. Some scholars dare to hope that Proto-Elamite might even hold clues to the very origins of writing itself, suggesting that the human impulse to record information visually emerged in more than one place at once. This is not just about one forgotten culture. It is about a fundamental chapter in the human story, a chapter we can see but cannot yet read. Each deciphered script is a time machine recalibrating our clocks for the ancient world. The moment a forgotten language speaks again, history's timeline often shatters and reassembles in a new, more accurate form. Consider the Hittites. For centuries, they were little more than a shadowy name in Egyptian records. Then, scholars deciphered the thousands of cuneiform tablets found at their capital, Hattusa, in modern-day Turkey. The language they unlocked revealed not a minor kingdom, but a sprawling, formidable empire that rivaled Egypt itself. This was a power that could challenge Pharaoh Ramses II to a standstill at the Battle of Kadesh. Suddenly, the map of the Bronze Age was redrawn. Anatolia was no longer a peripheral region, but the heart of a major player, fundamentally reshaping our understanding of international politics and warfare 3,000 years ago. This was not an isolated event. The cracking of Linear B had a similar, profound effect on the timeline of Greece. Before Michael Ventris made his breakthrough, the earliest known Greek writing was the Homeric Epis, written down centuries after the events they supposedly described. The Mycenaeans of the Bronze Age were considered pre-literate, their history lost to legend. But Linear B proved they were writing in a very early form of Greek, nearly 500 years earlier than anyone had believed. The history of the Greek language and the civilization that spoke it was instantly pushed back by half a millennium, filling a vast and empty chapter with the hard evidence of clay tablets. These linguistic breakthroughs do more than just add years to a timeline. They provide anchors of absolute certainty. Many of these ancient texts contain references to celestial events. A Hittite chronicle might describe the darkness falling in the middle of the day. An Assyrian eponym list might note an eclipse in a specific year of a specific king's reign. Modern astronomers can calculate the precise dates of these eclipses, offering a fixed point in time that can lock an entire dynasty or a long sequence of events into a firm chronological framework. It is like finding a dated receipt in a time capsule, suddenly making everything else around it make sense. This continuous refinement of chronology through language corrects our deepest misconceptions. We once imagined cultures developing in isolation, like islands in a vast sea of ignorance, but the deciphered word consistently proves otherwise. It shows us a world humming with interaction, where a treaty between a Hittite emperor and an Egyptian pharaoh was not just possible, but documented in both of their languages. Every time a lost language is recovered, it does not just add a new fact. It tightens the weave of human history, showing us that our past is far more connected and far more dynamically documented than we ever could have guessed without hearing those silent voices speak. A bilingual inscription is the codebreaker's dream, a gift of clarity in a sea of ancient mysteries. Throughout history, these parallel texts have served as master keys, unlocking not just one language but entire families of scripts. The Rosetta Stone was not a unique fluke. It was a perfect example of a proven method for resurrecting the voices of the past. The monumental Behistun inscription, carved high on a cliff in Iran, repeated its tale of King Darius the Great's victories in 3 distinct cuneiform scripts. This linguistic triad provided the same essential bridge. Scholars could use the deciphered Old Persian section as a stepping stone to understand the Elamite, and most crucially, the Babylonian versions, which held the secrets of ancient Mesopotamia. Another powerful example emerged centuries later at the site of Karap in Turkey. There, Phoenician inscriptions, a well-understood Semitic language, were paired with their equivalents in hieroglyphic Luwian, a script used by the Neo-Hittite kingdoms. This bilingual pairing gave scholars the direct comparisons they needed to finally hear the language of a people who had once dominated Anatolia. The process is like having a translated phrasebook for a completely unknown language. You start by matching the names of kings and places, the proper nouns that are most likely to be spelled out phonetically. From there, you identify common words like son of or built this, gradually piecing together the grammatical rules and the sound values of each symbol. This method is so powerful that its absence becomes the greatest barrier of all. The Indus Valley script offers no such parallel text. The Rongorongo tablets of Easter Island stand alone. Without a bilingual anchor, even the most advanced statistical analysis can only take us so far, leaving us guessing at the fundamental question of whether we are looking at a true language or a system of proto-writing. This desperate need for a key is now driving archaeology into the 21st century. Researchers are employing satellite imagery and ground-penetrating radar to scan remote locations, hoping to find a new carat or a second Behistun hidden beneath the sand. They search for sites where two ancient cultures met and traded, where the chance of a diplomatic monument inscribed in two languages is highest. Every undeciphered script represents a network of human connection we cannot yet see. The ongoing quest for these linguistic bridges is more than academic. It is a race against time to find the one artifact that can connect a known world to an unknown one, turning silent symbols back into a conversation. Even our most advanced technology is humbled by the silence of a script like Proto-Elamite. But the tools of decipherment are no longer limited to the human eye and a notebook. We have entered a new era where artificial intelligence and computational linguistics are bringing a formidable new partner to the table. These are not magic keys, but they are powerful new senses, allowing us to perceive patterns in ancient texts that are completely invisible to us. Machine learning algorithms can consume every known inscription of a script like the Indus Valley symbols or linear in seconds. They analyze the sequences, calculating the frequency of certain symbols and how they cluster together. Is there a symbol that almost always appears at the beginning of a line, like a capital letter or a title? Are there pairs of symbols that consistently follow one another, suggesting a grammatical rule or a common phrase? These models can then compare these hidden patterns to the structures of thousands of known languages, searching for a statistical match. It is like teaching a computer to recognize the rhythm of a language, even if it does not understand a single word. This digital approach has been applied to history's greatest puzzles. Researchers have fed the entire text of the Voynich manuscript into neural networks, asking them to find parallels. The results are often tantalizing, with some models suggesting a possible link to Hebrew or other Semitic languages, but a definitive translation remains elusive. For Linear A, the script that preceded Linear B on Crete, computers have confirmed it is a distinct language from Greek, but its identity is still a secret. The sheer speed of this analysis is its greatest strength. A hypothesis that would take a human scholar a decade to test manually can be run in an afternoon, allowing researchers to fail faster and pivot more quickly toward promising leads. Yet for all their power, these algorithms have a crucial limitation. They are brilliant at finding patterns, but they are terrible at understanding context. A computer might identify a recurring sequence of symbols, but have no way of knowing if it represents the name of a king, a type of cloth, or a prayer to a forgotten god. This is where the essential human element returns. The linguist must look at the AI's output and ask the right questions. Does this pattern make historical sense? Could it fit with the archaeology of the site where the tablet was found? The machine provides the raw data, but the scholar provides the story. This collaboration between silicon and intuition is the new frontier of decipherment. It is a synergy that merges the tireless, microscopic focus of the computer with the creative, contextual wisdom of the human mind. Together, They form a partnership that may soon hear the faint whispers of a script like Proto-Elamite, transforming its dry inventories from a list of unknowns into a vivid ledger of a living, breathing civilization. These ancient inventories are more than just lists. They are the financial records of vanished worlds, revealing the economic engines that powered entire civilizations. Take those linear B tablets from the Mycenaean palaces. Their dry accounting of bronze ingots and chariot wheels paints a vivid picture of a redistributive economy. The palace acted as the central hub, collecting raw materials and finished goods from across its territory, then redistributing them to soldiers, artisans, and officials. A single tablet is a snapshot of this system in motion, recording the allocation of cloth to weavers or rations of grain to rowers. This was not a market economy as we know it. It was a command network meticulously managed from the top down, and its entire operation was made possible by the written word. Far to the east, the cuneiform tablets of Assyrian merchants tell a different but equally compelling economic story. In the 19th century BC, these ambitious traders established colonies in Anatolia, modern-day Turkey. Their letters and contracts, etched in clay, detail a sophisticated long-distance trade. They transported vast quantities of tin, essential for making bronze, and luxury textiles from their home city of Ashur, exchanging them for Anatolian silver and gold. The records are astonishingly precise. They note transport costs, profit shares, and even loans with interest, revealing a fully developed commercial network operating over thousands of miles. These were not casual traders. They were the CEOs of the Bronze Age, their clay tablets serving as the contracts and ledgers that bound this vast enterprise together. Across the ocean, the deciphered Mayan glyphs add another layer to this global picture of ancient commerce. Their stone monuments recorded the flow of tribute between city-states. A victorious king would demand payments of highly valued goods, like jade for its spiritual significance, cacao beans which were used as currency, and the iridescent green feathers of the quetzal bird for royal headdresses. These were not simple plunder. They were calculated political and economic transactions, formalizing alliances and reinforcing power dynamics across Mesoamerica. The movement of these specific, prestigious items reveals a complex gift exchange network that underlay the fierce rivalries between Mayan rulers. What do these scattered records from Greece, Anatolia, and Central America all have in common? They prove that ancient economies were deeply interconnected. Controlling resources was the foundation of power. An empire's reach was literally measured by the distance its tin traveled or the exotic origins of its king's jewels. The collapse of these intricate systems, whether from invasion, drought, or internal rebellion, often meant the collapse of the civilization itself. Decipherment gives us a front-row seat to this economic drama. It transforms abstract ideas about trade into tangible, documented facts, showing us that the relentless human drive to exchange goods and accumulate wealth is a force that has shaped our world for millennia. When a language is finally understood, it often reveals a shared spiritual world. The Ugaritic tablets did more than just record trade. They preserved epic poems about the god ball battling the sea, stories whose phrases and structures resonate with passages in the Hebrew Bible. This was not one culture copying another. It was a chorus of related voices, a common cultural bedrock across the ancient Near East where myths and deities flowed as freely as goods. The Hittites, masters of empire, practiced a form of spiritual diplomacy. Their cuneiform tablets show they didn't just conquer neighbors, they adopted their gods. They welcomed Babylonian deities into their own pantheon, carefully recording the foreign rituals needed to appease them. This was a strategic, inclusive theology, a divine network that helped manage a vast and diverse kingdom. Across the ocean, the deciphered Mayan glyphs tell a similar story of interconnected belief. Their detailed cosmology, with its sacred world tree and its deadly underworld, was not unique to them. These core concepts appear again in the later Aztec traditions, suggesting a deep, shared ideological foundation throughout Mesoamerica that persisted for centuries. How did these ideas travel? They moved along the very same routes as merchants and ambassadors. A trade caravan carried more than spices and silk, it carried tales of the gods. A princess sent to seal a political marriage brought her priests and her rituals with her. The divine was a constant, flowing current in the ancient world. This spiritual network reveals a universal human quest, different cultures facing the same fundamental mysteries of life and death, often arrived at strikingly similar answers, and then they shared them. Deciphering these lost languages lets us trace the migration of a single myth, like a stone creating ripples across a pond, showing us that the boundaries between ancient faiths were far more porous than we ever knew. The recovery of a single prayer can illuminate a web of belief that connected continents. These ancient inventories and legal codes do more than track goods and gods. They draw a detailed map of the social world, placing every individual within a strict hierarchy. The linear bead tablets from the Mycenaean palaces are brutally clear on this point. They do not just list anonymous workers, they categorize them, naming slaves attached to specific estates, skilled artisans like perfumers and chariot makers, and various levels of officials. We see a society sharply divided between the palace elite and everyone else, a rigid structure where your rations of barley and olive oil were determined by your rank. This was a world administered through writing, where the state knew exactly who you were and what you owed it. Centuries earlier and far to the east, the Code of Hammurabi carved this principle into stone. This was not a single law for all, but a meticulous set of rules that varied dramatically by social class. The penalty for injuring a noble was not the same as for injuring a commoner or a slave. Its 282 laws governed everything from property disputes and commercial contracts to family matters like marriage, divorce, and inheritance. They tell us that a woman in ancient Babylon could own property and run a business, but her rights were distinctly separate from those of a man. These texts were the operating system for their societies, designed to maintain order by making social rank and its accompanying responsibilities explicitly clear. Even the grand Mayan monuments, which so often glorify the king, occasionally let other voices slip through. While the stelae focus on the divine ruler and his military conquests, smaller texts on pottery or in murals sometimes mention merchants, scribes, and farmers. We learn of a noble class, the Ajawab, who governed secondary centers, and of the artists and architects who translated royal power into stone and stucco. The glyphs reveal a complex social pyramid, with the king at its apex, but supported by a vast and intricate network of skilled individuals. What emerges from all these deciphered records is a profound sense of humanity. These are not just ruins anymore, they are communities. We know the name of the Mesopotamian merchant who complained in a letter that the copper he received was of poor quality. We meet the Mycenaean slave woman named at Pylos. We see the Hittite queen exercising significant political power. Writing was the tool that recorded these relationships, these injustices, and these daily struggles. It lets us see the first labor strikes, the first lawsuits, and the first love poems. This is the ultimate power of decipherment. It does not just rebuild palaces and temples, it repopulates them. It turns abstract concepts like social stratification into the lived reality of individuals, allowing us to look across 3,000 years and recognize the universal human dramas of power, family, and identity that connected their world to our own. The same clay tablets that tracked taxes and trade also held the blueprints for ancient innovation. Beyond the lists of grain and records of kings, scribes meticulously documented the scientific knowledge that powered their civilizations. Among the Egyptian hieroglyphs, we find the Rhind mathematical papyrus, a collection of problems and solutions used for training scribes. It shows they could calculate the slope of pyramids and the volume of cylindrical granaries with remarkable precision. Their medical texts, like the Ebers papyrus, offer detailed diagnoses and prescriptions, describing everything from setting broken bones to treating ailments with complex herbal compounds. This was not magic, but a systematized, written body of medical knowledge passed down through generations. In Mesopotamia, the ambition was written in the stars. Babylonian cuneiform tablets contain thousands of astronomical observations, tracking the precise movements of planets and stars over centuries. They did this not just for mythology, but for mathematics. These records allowed them to develop sophisticated tables that could predict lunar eclipses and the recurring cycles of Venus. Their advanced base 60 numerical system, the very foundation of our modern 60-second minute and 60-minute hour, was a tool for this celestial engineering. While we have no complete technical manual from a truly lost script like the Indus Valley, the very existence of standardized weights, precise urban planning, and complex plumbing in their cities strongly implies a written body of engineering knowledge that has simply not survived. And this brings us back to the ultimate what-if, the Voynich manuscript. Its strange botanical illustrations could be a pharmacopoeia of plants now extinct or unknown to modern science. Its enigmatic astronomical charts might represent a unique understanding of the cosmos. If its code is ever broken, it might not reveal a history of kings, but a lost encyclopedia of practical wisdom. These technical texts reveal a hidden layer of ancient networks. A mathematical formula discovered in Babylon could influence calculations in Egypt. A medical treatment recorded on a papyrus scroll could travel along trade routes, its efficacy tested and refined across continents. Writing was the hard drive of the ancient world, preserving and transmitting the innovations that built cities, healed the sick, and mapped the heavens. Deciphering these manuals does more than satisfy historical curiosity. It can offer us a second chance at lost knowledge. A forgotten herbal remedy might inspire a new pharmaceutical compound. An ancient water management technique recorded in a now understood script could offer sustainable solutions for modern communities facing drought. Every deciphered technical text is a spark of ancient genius, waiting to be rekindled in the modern mind. Stone and clay became the parchment for international statecraft. The Amarna letters, a trove of clay tablets discovered in Egypt, preserved the frantic diplomatic mail between pharaohs and their royal counterparts in Babylon, Assyria, and the Hittite Empire. Written in Akkadian, the lingua franca of the day, these were not orders from a supreme ruler, but correspondence between equals. One king complains that the gold he received was not as pure as expected. Another politely requests a physician be sent to his court. A third offers his daughter in marriage to seal an alliance. This was the high diplomacy of the 14th century BC, a constant negotiation of gifts, flattery, and veiled threats, all managed through the written word. Across the ocean, the same political game was being played in the Mayan world. Their stone monuments proudly record the marriages of royal women, sent from one powerful city-state to another. This was not merely a romantic union. It was a strategic maneuver, a living treaty designed to bind two dynasties together with blood and loyalty. A princess from the powerful city of Calakmul marrying into the court of a lesser ally created a network of obligation and support that could last for generations. The language of these glyphs allows us to trace these family trees of power, revealing the personal connections that underlay the rise and fall of entire cities. Perhaps the most formal of these ancient agreements was the treaty between the Hittites and the Egyptians after the epic Battle of Kadesh. This was not a simple scroll on a piece of papyrus. It was a meticulously crafted document, inscribed on silver tablets, that established a lasting peace. The treaty, known from both Hittite and Egyptian versions, detailed everything from mutual defense pledges against common enemies to the extradition of political fugitives. It even set down precise rules for the border, creating one of history's first documented international boundaries. This was ancient law on a grand scale, a contract between superpowers that relied entirely on the permanence and clarity of writing to be enforced. What does this tell us about the ancient world? It shows that the concept of a global community of nations bound by agreed-upon rules and open lines of communication is thousands of years old. Scribes were the unsung heroes of this system, translating the wills of kings into binding text. Their work enabled empires to manage complex coalitions and maintain a fragile peace across distances that would take months to travel. Deciphering these documents gives us a backstage pass to the summit meetings of the ancient world, proving that the intricate dance of diplomacy is one of humanity's oldest and most essential networks. The same clay ledgers that tracked royal lineages and trade goods also hold a hidden archive of the ancient world's climate. These deciphered records are far more than historical accounts. They are environmental diaries etched in stone and clay. The Linear B tablets from Mycenaean palaces list precise allocations of grain, olives, and figs. They detail flocks of sheep and herds of cattle, painting a vivid picture of agrarian society. This was not just an inventory, it was a snapshot of a specific ecosystem. The reliance on these particular crops tells us about the rainfall patterns and soil conditions of Bronze Age Greece. It reveals a landscape capable of supporting a sophisticated palace economy, a landscape that would have been carefully managed and intimately understood by its inhabitants. Across the Atlantic, the story turns darker. Mayan glyphs carved into stone stelae do not just boast of royal births and military victories, they speak of calamity. Specific rulers are described as facing periods of great hardship, and modern translations have linked these events directly to drought. The glyphs mention the failure of rains and the ensuing suffering, creating a chronological record of disaster that aligns perfectly with climate data extracted from lakebed sediments and cave formations. These were not random collapses, they were the slow unraveling of a civilization pushed beyond its environmental limits. The written word gives a human voice to the paleoclimatologist's graph. In the arid plains of Mesopotamia, the cuneiform records take a more proactive tone. They are filled with the bureaucracy of survival, detailing the construction and maintenance of vast irrigation canals. These texts are manuals for managing the lifeblood of their society, the Tigris and Euphrates rivers. They record allocations of labor for dredging silt and elaborate legal disputes over water rights between neighboring cities. This was a society engineering its environment on a massive scale, and its meticulous records show us both the immense effort required and the constant vulnerability to shifts in river flow or prolonged drought. None of these texts were written as scientific reports on climate change. They were practical documents concerned with immediate survival and administrative control. Yet this is what makes them so valuable. They provide dated, on-the-ground observations that scientists can now correlate with ice core data and tree ring records. This fusion of linguistics and ecology reveals a profound truth. Ancient civilizations were deeply embedded in their environmental networks. Their prosperity was tied to predictable rains and fertile soil, and their collapses were often preceded by a breakdown in that delicate relationship. Deciphering these records does not just tell us about the past, it offers a stark lesson for our own future. We see societies that succeeded by carefully managing their resources, and those that failed when they could not adapt to a changing world. The ancient scribe, noting a drop in the grain tax, was unknowingly documenting a shift that would echo for centuries. A borrowed alphabet can reshape the world. The story of writing is not one of isolated invention, but of constant cultural conversation. Consider the Phoenician alphabet, a revolutionary system of just 22 consonants. It was not kept secret by its merchant creators, but carried across the Mediterranean on their trading ships. When the Greeks encountered it, they did not simply copy it. They transformed it, adding letters for vowel sounds, a fundamental innovation that made their version more flexible and precise. This Greek alphabet then traveled to Italy, where it was adopted and adapted by the Etruscans, and from them to the Romans, eventually becoming the Latin script that you are reading right now. This was not a simple handoff, but a chain of creative reinterpretation, where each culture molded the tool to fit its own unique linguistic needs and identity. The same principle applied to the much older cuneiform. This wedge-shaped script, born in Sumer, was not locked to a single language. It became a versatile medium, adopted and adapted by the Akkadians, the Babylonians, the Assyrians, and even the distant Hittites. Each culture added its own signs, its own grammatical conventions, and its own literary styles to the system. They used a shared technology of writing to express profoundly different worldviews, proving that a script could be a vessel for both foreign ideas and local genius. In South and Southeast Asia, the journey of the Brahmi script carried more than just words. As it spread from the Indian subcontinent, evolving into the distinct scripts of Tamil, Burmese, Thai, and Khmer, it brought with it an entire cultural package. The concepts of Buddhism, Hindu cosmology, and sophisticated political ideals were embedded within its elegant, curving forms. To learn to write was, in a very real sense, to be drawn into a network of Indian artistic and philosophical influence that spanned the continent. Decipherment allows us to trace these journeys of artistic and intellectual influence with stunning clarity. The stylistic elements of a script are a direct reflection of cultural values. The monumental elegance of Egyptian hieroglyphs, carved for eternity in stone, speaks to a society obsessed with permanence, divinity, and the power of the pharaoh. In stark contrast, the utilitarian, angular simplicity of Germanic runes, designed for quick carving into wood or bone, reflects a pragmatic, decentralized culture where writing was a tool for everyday memory and magic, not for building eternal monuments. Every time a culture borrowed a script, it engaged in an act of cultural diplomacy and assimilation. It made a choice about what to keep, what to change, and how to make a foreign system its own. This dimension adds a profound artistic layer to the story of decipherment. When we learn to read a lost script, we are not just decoding sounds and meanings. We are appreciating an aesthetic choice, understanding a cultural statement, and witnessing the silent, beautiful negotiation that happens when one civilization reaches out and touches another, leaving its mark not just in goods or laws, but in the very shape of the letters themselves. Who truly owns the story told by a stone unearthed a century ago on foreign soil? The brilliant act of decipherment, of giving voice to the silent, carries with it a profound ethical weight that modern scholarship is only beginning to fully acknowledge. For generations, many of the most critical artifacts, from the Rosetta stone to cuneiform tablets, were taken from their homelands during the colonial era. They now reside in the glass cases of distant museums, their physical removal a stark reminder of a power dynamic where Western institutions became the self-appointed guardians of world heritage. This history casts a long shadow. The very process of cracking these ancient codes was, for a long time, a field dominated by European and American scholars, often working in isolation from the modern communities who are the cultural descendants of those who created the scripts. The knowledge was extracted, much like the artifacts themselves, and interpreted through a purely academic lens that sometimes missed or even dismissed living cultural context. A powerful shift is now underway. There is a growing, urgent movement calling for the repatriation of these cultural treasures, and just as importantly, for the inclusion of local scholars and knowledge keepers in decipherment projects. This collaboration is vital. A researcher from Cairo or Mexico City can bring insights into linguistic nuance or cultural symbolism that might be completely invisible to an outsider. They ensure that the interpretations are not just technically accurate, but also culturally sensitive and respectful. This ethical challenge extends beyond museums and into the very content of the texts themselves. What happens when a deciphered tablet reveals not a king's tax list, but a society's most sacred rituals? Some ancient knowledge was never meant for public consumption. For modern indigenous groups, a successfully translated prayer or creation story might be the equivalent of having their most private religious ceremonies published for global scrutiny. This creates a delicate tension between the academic ideal of open knowledge and the fundamental right of cultural privacy. Do scholars have the right to unveil everything they are capable of reading? The answer is not simple, and it requires a new kind of partnership, one built on consent and mutual respect. The future of decipherment must be guided by this principle of responsibility. It is no longer enough to simply ask if we can read a language. We must also ask if we should, and if so, how it should be done and who should be involved. This is not a limitation on discovery, but an evolution of it. The goal shifts from mere translation to true understanding, a process that honors the voices of the past by listening carefully to the voices of the present. A silent tablet can now speak volumes, not through a linguist's intuition alone, but through the penetrating gaze of a multispectral camera. The next frontier in decipherment is a powerful fusion of advanced technology and timeless scholarship, where 3D scanning and quantum computing are joining forces with traditional philology. These tools are our new senses, allowing us to see what the naked eye cannot. Faded ink on a crumbling papyrus, invisible for centuries, can be resurrected under specific wavelengths of light. A medieval scribe's reused parchment, a palimpsest, often holds a more ancient text scraped away beneath the surface. Now, sophisticated imaging can detect the ghostly trace of that older, erased writing, recovering lost classical texts or early biblical versions from a single manuscript. The sheer computational power promised by quantum computing could process the staggering probabilistic models needed to test millions of linguistic hypotheses for a script like the Indus Valley symbols, a task far beyond the reach of even our fastest supercomputers today. This technological leap is being matched by a new spirit of global cooperation. International projects like the Cruise Project are creating digital hubs where epigraphers, archaeologists, and computer scientists from around the world can pool data and expertise on undeciphered scripts. No single scholar needs to work in isolation anymore. This collaborative ethos even extends to the public through innovative citizen science platforms. Now anyone with an internet connection can help transcribe digitized fragments of ancient texts, their collective efforts creating the clean, searchable datasets that fuel major breakthroughs. The painstaking work of comparing thousands of inscriptions across a vast corpus, which once took a lifetime, is now accelerated by digital libraries that place entire collections of scripts just a click away. The most exciting future discoveries may not even originate in a linguistics department. A geneticist analyzing the DNA of ancient populations might uncover a migration pattern that points to the language family of an enigmatic script. A physicist specializing in network theory could map the relationships between symbols in a new way, revealing a hidden grammar. The stubborn silence of linear or the Indus Valley script is no longer just a historical puzzle. It is a driving force for innovation across countless disciplines. This convergence of minds and machines ensures that our quest to hear every ancient voice is brighter and more promising than ever before. The dream that a forgotten civilization, silent for millennia, could one day tell its full story is no longer a fantasy, but a tangible goal within our technological grasp. A scholar staring at an undeciphered script for years enters a unique state of mind, part detective and part medium. They are not merely solving a puzzle, they are trying to hear a whisper across millennia, an effort that can consume a life. Michael Ventris, the architect who unlocked Linear B, was famously haunted by the script, confessing that he dreamed about its symbols. Jean-Francois Champollion, after his final, triumphant breakthrough with the Rosetta Stone, is said to have collapsed into a feverish state for days, his mind and body utterly spent by 2 decades of obsessive labor. These are not stories of casual academic interest, but of profound psychological journeys. The work is defined by long stretches of frustrating silence, punctuated by fleeting moments of insight that vanish as quickly as they appear. This cycle of hope and despair takes a measurable toll, leading to anxiety, exhaustion, and in some cases, a kind of scholarly burnout that can last for years. Yet the drive to solve the mystery, to be the first person in centuries to understand, proves irresistible. Decipherers often speak of a strange, almost spiritual sensation, a feeling that they are not inventing a translation but rather channeling one. It is as if the ancient scribe whose hand once formed the symbols is finally able to communicate, using the modern scholar as their voice. This powerful emotional connection to the past becomes the fuel for perseverance, a reason to continue staring at the same inscrutable marks night after night. The history of this field is filled with personal dramas that rival any work of fiction. There are bitter rivalries, like the tension between Champollion and the English physicist Thomas Young, each racing for the glory of understanding Egypt. There are tales of brilliant amateurs like Michael Ventris overturning the established wisdom of professional academics, and there are quiet, private triumphs, the moment a single symbol clicks into place and an entire grammatical structure suddenly reveals itself, clear as day. To understand these breakthroughs, we must look beyond the dictionaries and grammar rules and into the hearts and minds of the people who achieved them. The decipherer's psyche, with its unique blend of obsessive logic and intuitive leap, is as complex and fascinating as the ancient scripts they dedicate their lives to studying. This human element reminds us that history is not uncovered by dispassionate machines, but by passionate, driven individuals who are willing to sacrifice everything for a conversation with the dead. The same intellectual thrill that captivated Champollion and Ventris holds incredible power in the classroom today. These decipherment stories are masterclasses in disciplined thought, showing students how to build a hypothesis from fragments of evidence and have the courage to abandon it when the clues lead elsewhere. A child learning about Michael Ventris does not just memorize a fact, they witness a real-world application of logic. They see how he collected every known symbol of Linear B, treated them like pieces of an architectural plan, and systematically tested his radical idea that the language was Greek. This is not dry history, it is a detective story where the final clue unlocks an entire civilization. educators have harnessed this magnetic pull by creating classroom codes for students to crack. A simple substitution cipher, where each letter of the alphabet is replaced by another, teaches the fundamental decipherment skill of frequency analysis. Students quickly learn that in English, the letter E appears most often, and they use that statistical pattern to break the code, experiencing the same electric moment of discovery that Ventris felt when he saw ko no so and recognized Knossos. These exercises train the mind to look for patterns, to question assumptions, and to value meticulous attention to detail, skills that are vital far beyond the history classroom. The global scope of these narratives naturally fosters cultural curiosity. A lesson can begin with the Rosetta stone in Egypt, travel to the clay tablets of Ugaritic in Syria, and end with the Mayan glyphs of Central America. Students do not just learn that these scripts were decoded, they learn why these cultures created writing in the first place. They see the universal human need to record laws, track commerce, and tell stories, building a profound appreciation for the diverse ways humanity has solved the same fundamental problems. This journey across continents and millennia cultivates a genuine, empathetic interest in the world. At its heart, every decipherment story is a lesson in resilience. Jean-François Champollion did not wake up one day and read hieroglyphs. He dedicated 2 decades of his life to the task, facing dead ends and skepticism. This kind of persistence, coupled with the collaborative spirit seen in modern international research projects, shows that the greatest challenges are rarely solved alone. Teaching these stories does more than fill a curriculum, it plants a seed. The next person to hear a whisper from a silent script might be a student who first felt that spark of excitement while decoding a simple cipher in a social studies class. By cultivating these skills of logic, patience, and cultural awareness, we are not just teaching about the past, we are training the future explorers who will one day listen for the next lost voice waiting to speak. Ancient voices do more than tell us about the past. They actively reshape our understanding of language itself. The successful decipherment of scripts like Mayan glyphs provided a stunning real-world example of a mixed system, where a single symbol could be a whole word or a single syllable sound. This challenged the once rigid categories linguists used to classify writing, proving that human minds are brilliantly flexible in how they map symbols to speech. It revealed that the very architecture of writing is far more diverse and adaptable than any single theory could contain. The lightning-fast cracking of the Ugaritic alphabet, with its clear ties to Hebrew and Arabic, gave scholars a powerful new lens for viewing the entire Semitic language family. Suddenly, they could observe precise sound changes and grammatical shifts across centuries, watching a language evolve in high definition. These ancient texts became a unique long-term laboratory, offering data on linguistic change that no modern study, limited to a few generations, could ever replicate. We can see a verb form slowly simplify, or a consonant sound gradually soften over 1,000 years. This deep time perspective fuels fundamental debates about where language comes from and how our brains acquire and process it. Are there universal rules hardwired into our cognition, or is language infinitely malleable? The evidence from vanished civilizations suggests a fascinating interplay of both. Every translated phrase from a clay tablet does more than add a fact to a history book. It adds a data point to our grand, ongoing experiment to comprehend the essence of human communication. The dialogue between the ancient scribe and the modern linguist enriches both fields, turning historical mystery into a living science that continues to define our relationship with the word. Deciphering these lost languages is far more than an academic exercise. It is a profound journey into the very heart of human civilization, revealing the intricate networks that connected our ancestors across vast distances of time and space. Every breakthrough, from the Rosetta Stone to today's AI-assisted analysis, peels back another layer of mystery, showing us that ancient societies were not isolated islands. They were dynamic, interconnected, and remarkably sophisticated worlds. These linguistic keys have unlocked everything from complex economic systems and delicate political alliances to deeply held religious beliefs and the simple, daily lives of ordinary people. Without them, these stories would remain forever silent. Now we stand on the brink of new discoveries, armed with technologies that can see through faded ink and process patterns invisible to the human eye. Every undeciphered script from the Indus Valley to Linear A holds the potential to rewrite a chapter of our shared history. Let this exploration inspire you to look closer at the symbols of the past, for they may yet speak volumes about our collective human story. I would love to hear which lost language you find most fascinating. Share your thoughts in the comments below and subscribe for more journeys into historical mysteries. The cumulative effect of all these decipherments is a quiet revolution in how we see ourselves. We no longer view history as a series of isolated cultures, rising and falling in lonely splendor. Instead, we see a complex tapestry, a global network of human interaction woven from threads of trade, diplomacy, and shared ideas that stretch back thousands of years. The translated word has systematically dismantled the myth of the solitary, genius civilization. We now know that the technology of writing was not a single spark that spread from one source, but a flame that was lit independently in multiple places, from the river valleys of Mesopotamia and the Indus to the jungles of Central America and the remote islands of the Pacific. This realization is deeply humbling. It demonstrates that the human drive to record, to administer, and to create literature is a universal impulse, a fundamental part of our species' toolkit for building complex societies. This legacy fosters a powerful sense of shared heritage. The Latin alphabet you use, the numbers you write, even the structure of some of your thoughts, are heirs to ancient experiments in communication that began with marks on clay and stone. When we recognize that our own ways of thinking are built upon foundations laid by Sumerian accountants, Egyptian priests, and Mayan astronomers, the line between their world and ours begins to blur. This is the profound gift of decipherment. It challenges ethnocentric views and promotes a truly inclusive understanding of human achievement. The story is never fully written. Every time a new script yields its secrets, our historical narrative is not just added to, it is fundamentally reinterpreted. The past is not a fixed monument, but a living conversation, and each deciphered tablet is a new voice joining that dialogue, forcing us to reconsider what we thought we knew. As we continue to decode these ancient networks, we are not just learning about forgotten kings and lost cities. We are learning about the enduring forces of connection, innovation, and cultural exchange that continue to shape our world.